The name of today's event is not an accident. It is a celebration. It's an opportunity to take a break and take a deep breath, to remember and to recognize the people and the organizations who work every day without fail to make things better in our community. In today's hyper-polarized environment and hyper-politicized environment, we need this moment more than ever. I know I do. Today, we can and we do find solutions to many of the issues that plague our community. In that way, together, we make lives better, and that's what we celebrate today. Before we go any further, please join me in thanking our sponsors, several of whom are with us today. Their support is critical, and we also appreciate it so much. A heartfelt thanks to many of you here who are service staff at the Intercontinental. Can we please take a moment and thank them for their time and energy? I gave my shout out already to Ebony and Patty, but the whole Community Solutions team is amazing, as you know. So to get us started, it is my privilege to introduce our guest MC for today's program, Lila Mills. Lila? With a 25-year career in journalism and community building, Lila understands Greater Clevelanders are active participants in creating the future we all want in the city that we love. I know Lila from years ago in her work with Neighborhood Connections, and I think many of you have seen her out and about in many places, so it's a true honor to have her today. The genesis for Signal Cleveland, which she runs, was made to make Cleveland's news accessible as possible. Along with the stories posted online, which I hope many of you are reading now, Signal aims to utilize text messaging, pamphlets, flyers, podcasts, videos, social media for storytelling and news sharing. At Signal Cleveland, Lila runs an 18-person newsroom with reporters covering economics, education, government, community, sometimes a little arts and culture, and more. The newsroom also has Cleveland Documenters program that trains and pays Greater Clevelanders to be part of the news gathering process by attending and taking notes at local government meetings. I know that the Documenters have done an amazing job when they come to our public meetings at Cuyahoga Arts and Culture, and I hope you do follow them online because they've been great in providing transparency into the public sector. There is at least one documenter in almost every zip code in this county. So with that, Lila, I'm going to turn it to you, and let's give her a round of applause.
Thank you, Jill. Thank you, Jill, for that intro. Welcome, everyone, to the Celebration of Human Services. I'm so happy today to serve as your MC in my role at Signal Cleveland. At Signal Cleveland, we aim to do news differently, and we want our questions and our news to not be a fire hose that exhausts or scares people, but actually that engages people more deeply in the civic life of their communities. We ultimately, just like Community Solutions, want to be part of improving the life of all, improving the quality of life for all Ohioans. We also partner closely with the Center for Community Solutions to support Data Days Cleveland. So I want to give a shout out to Data Days Cleveland. There are some folks over there at table 20. This is an annual conference organized by dedicated volunteers who want to create space for Clevelanders interested in using data and civic tech for the greater good. So really happy that we can partner to support that good work. Of course, all of you know firsthand the hard work that goes into being people who help people. It's easy to get engulfed in the day-to-day, to not take a breath, to not look up. So it's so wonderful to be here today to celebrate the good work that you all do, whether you're staff, volunteers, or whole organizations doing this work. To get us started, I'd like to welcome to the stage Emily Campbell, President and Executive Director of the Center for Community Solutions, to present our first award of the afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thank you to Lila, and thank you to all of you for being here today. We're delighted to have you on, and now it sort of feels like November here in Northeast Ohio. We weren't quite sure up until last week. You know, it has been a year, almost a year, since I stepped into the role of president and CEO here at the Center for Community Solutions. It's been 357 days to be exact, but who's counting? And what a year it's been. I could talk about the launch of our new website, totally redesigned, built from the ground up and completely reorganized, so hopefully you can find the information that we're putting out a little bit easier. It's at communitysolutions.com. I could talk about the new methodology that we have developed to make data available for locally meaningful geographies, and you see the results of that in the circles, the wheels that are at your table for Cleveland neighborhoods. I could talk about the launch of our Policy Ambassadors program, which helps to connect community and community solutions together, or the partnerships that we've forged and the analysis and preparation that we've done so that we're ready to advocate to protect critical health and social services no matter what is on the horizon, as we've done for 111 years. But we're not here to brag about us, we're here to celebrate you. And I am delighted to be able to present the first award of today, which is the Center for Community Solutions Public Service Award in honor of John A. Begala. This award was established, we can give John a round of applause, he's here today. This award was established in 2015 to honor those who have shown a great commitment to public service, especially as it relates to improving health, social, and economic conditions. It's named for longtime executive director of both the Center for Community Solutions and the Federation for Community Planning, John Begala, who is here today. And today we're also joined by numerous other people who are currently serving in public service, elected and appointed officials. If I could ask you to please stand so that we can recognize you. Oh, there's more of you out there. The recipient of the 2024 Center for Community Solutions Public Service Award in honor of John A. Begala is Matthew Damschroeder, Director of the Ohio Department of Job and Family Services. And when we met with Director Damschroeder to ask him if he would accept the award, he immediately told us that there were other public servants, and named some names, that were more deserving, and we knew we had selected the right person. Director Damschroeder led the working group who thoughtfully explored SNAP employment and training, which resulted in a comprehensive plan and system of improvements. One of these is the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program off-ramp, allowing working Ohioans up to 200% of the federal poverty level to maintain critical hunger benefits as they earn more. It improves the benefit cliff and it reduces a disincentive to work. Director Damschroeder's diligent work around SNAP propels Ohio toward becoming an exceptional place to live and thrive, benefiting tens of thousands of families in the state. He was appointed the interim director of the Ohio Department of Job and Family Services by Governor Mike DeWine in March 2021 and was named permanent director in July of that year. During the COVID-19 pandemic, Director Damschroeder led the Department of Administrative Services efforts to utilize information technology and data to help health officials and to secure and distribute more than 140 million pieces of personal protective equipment. At ODJFS, he has inspired innovation and transformational change to improve services to customers and to support employees. He has elevated and modernized customer service, technology, and the user experience, and he has been a quiet force finding ways that government can work for all Ohioans. I particularly appreciate how he has been a champion for services for older adults, and he has shown that time and again, his deep understanding of the levers of government and the opportunities to improve policy so that government works better for all of us. In addition to the award today, we have also received on behalf of the Ohio Senate, a commendation for Director Damschroeder, which we'll be presenting as well. So if we could welcome Director Damschroeder to the stage, congratulations.
Well, good afternoon, and thank you very much for this very special honor. It's great to be a part of the Ohio Department of Job and Family Services. I lead a team of individuals at the state who work very closely with phenomenal individuals who work at the County Jobs and Family Services and other organizations around the state to serve our neighbors. Thomas Sowell famously said that one of the challenges with bureaucracies is that bureaucracies are ordinarily focused on process as opposed to outcomes. I'm very fortunate to work for Governor Mike DeWine, who is not interested one lick in process, but is solely focused on outcomes, especially outcomes for Ohioans' children and our families. And so after the pandemic, when the labor market was tight, wages were rising, businesses were reopening, businesses, nonprofits, and others were very concerned about the issues around benefit cliffs. And the governor asked us to, hey Matt, solve the problem. Easier said than done. But I'm very fortunate to have a great team at the state. Some of my senior leaders are here today, if you all wouldn't mind standing. Molly, Mindy, Laura, Betsy, Jennifer, and a number of others who put their nose to the grindstone and tried to figure out what we could do to help. Also, it's very important to note the importance of this organization to many of the things that we've accomplished over the last number of years, particularly Rachel Cahill, for bringing forward great ideas. It's when we don't worry about who gets the credit or where the ideas come from, we can accomplish great things together. So I'm really pleased that we have been able to be a part of making a very big difference for Ohioans with the change both to SNAP employment and training and the off-ramp for SNAP. I'd just like to close by saying something that I often remind my staff, and that is that what we do individually, collectively, corporately, in our jobs, what we do is important. But how we do what we do is even more important. And the reason for that is because how we do it just informs and shows others the why we do what we do. And so when you know your why, and when it is based in the idea of serving other people, the how you do what you do will be better, and the what you do will be better. So thank you very much for allowing us to be here. Thank you for this recognition on behalf of everyone who serves Ohioans. Thank you.
Congratulations, Director Damschroeder. So I wanted to read an excerpt from the commendation from the General Assembly of the State of Ohio, the Ohio Senate, honoring Matthew Damschroeder. It says, willingly giving of your time, energy, and abilities far beyond what was required or expected, you have striven to better the world around you. You have earned the genuine respect and esteem of colleagues, clients, and communities alike. We are certain that in the years to come, you will continue to demonstrate the same unwavering commitment to excellence for which you have become known. And it is signed by Senator Matt Huffman, President of the Ohio Senate, Senator Nikki Antonio, Minority Leader, as well as Senator Herschel Craig from the 15th Senatorial District. And in particular, giving of your time, energy, and abilities far beyond what was required or expected may be a tagline that we steal in future years for some of our awards here that we present at the Celebration for Human Services. So congratulations again. Now I'd like for Lila to return to the stage.
Congratulations, Director. An award well deserved. Now I'd like to introduce our keynote speaker, who will be giving the 2024 William T. McCullough Lecture. The lecture is named for the legendary executive director who led community solutions throughout the 1960s. Today's keynote speaker is Dr. Ange-Marie Hancock, the executive director of the Kirwan Institute for the Study of Race and Ethnicity at The Ohio State University, where she also serves as a professor of political science. Dr. Hancock joined the Institute in January 2023 after 15 years at the University of Southern California and previous positions at Yale, Penn State, and the University of San Francisco. We're so pleased that she landed back in Ohio, where she was born. She is a globally recognized scholar. She has written numerous articles and books on the intersections of race, gender, class, sexuality, and citizenship, and the impact on policy. She is now hard at work on her fourth book, The Scope and Vision of African American Political Thought, which covers more than 250 years of African American political thinking. Her current work also includes new research projects on asylum requests by survivors of domestic violence, empirical applications of intersectionality, and the Kamala Harris Project, a nonpartisan collective of scholars studying the term of the first woman of color vice president in U.S. history. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Ange-Marie Hancock to the stage.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. Well, yes, you've seen that it's going to be a lecture, but I promise it will not be one of those lectures that maybe you fell asleep to when you were in college or high school. But I do want to roam a little bit, so you'll see me kind of moving around, and I just wanted to make sure everybody knew that up front. I'm not a stand behind the podium kind of person. I want to thank Emily. I want to thank the entire staff of the Center for Community Solutions. I also want to thank Lila for that very generous introduction. And yes, I am back in Ohio after a time away. I don't know how many of you have been parents. I was a foster parent for 5 years. Whether you've been any kind of parent, you know that 18-year-olds think they know everything. And so my mother can attest that when I left at 18 to go to college, I never thought I would come back to Ohio. But now here I am, and really excited to be back. So thanks for having me. So today, we're going to talk a little bit about three things. We're going to talk about ripple effects. And that actually has a very specific definition, not just kind of when you throw a rock in a pond or something into a puddle, you know, kind of how does it ripple out from a physics perspective. Then we're going to talk about why happiness is possible. Now, as I was kind of coming into today's event, I got to see a lot of folks interact, you know, kind of in random places, you know, throughout as they were kind of getting settled. And I don't think I have to convince anyone that happiness is possible. But I want to talk about it at a societal or a statewide level, as opposed to just, are we individually happy? So we're going to talk a little bit about that. And then we're going to talk about why solidarity is essential in making sure that statewide or community-wide happiness is possible. But the first thing I want to talk about, and I know we have some folks in the audience who kind of lived through this, right, is the first ripple effect I want to talk about really is the impact of COVID. So when we're talking about that, what do we do when we look at the data? We actually do a mini social network analysis to look at the data. And we know that from Data Ohio that there were over 44,000 COVID deaths in Ohio since the discovery of the virus itself. When we look at that and then apply that social network analysis to the total population of Ohioans, we end up finding out that 68%, so almost 70% of our state knows someone personally who passed away from COVID. Then when we look at the data and we say, well, if you didn't know somebody, do you know somebody who knows somebody? So again, that's the other part of our social network, right? It might not be us personally, but it would be somebody who knows somebody. And when you start factoring that through in terms of the network analysis, the average person knows, and knows by face and name is what we're talking about, not how many friends you have on Facebook, not how many followers you have on Instagram. We're talking about an average network size of, people know, about 200, 290 people. 100% of Ohioans know someone who knows someone who passed away from COVID. So I start there, quite ironically, in a talk about happiness and hope and solidarity, because of course, we all lived through this together. This is something that continues to have an impact on us. Again, many of you are doing that work and making sure that, again, the impacts are blunted or muted as much as possible now that we're 4 years on. But this is a reality we do still contend with on a regular basis. Most of us, when we lose somebody personally, we feel that absence far beyond 6 months, a year, could be many years that we still feel that absence, right? So this is the first ripple effect that I wanted us to kind of talk about. And this is based on an analysis that was outlined, an analytical strategy outlined by Dr. James Cook at the University of Maine. Then I want to talk about a second ripple effect, which is the happiness ripple effect. Which again, while you might be very familiar with the COVID ripple effect, that's something that we've seen in the news a lot, we've seen a lot talked about, we haven't necessarily talked about a happiness ripple effect. And so I want to talk about that in a similarly data-informed way. So these are two maps out of an analysis that was conducted by some colleagues of mine at Ohio State and Scioto Analysis, who surveyed about 700 people in the state of Ohio to ask them about happiness. And the first question that they asked was, how happy did you feel yesterday? So I'm going to do a little audience interaction here because I recognize I'm also the after lunch speaker. How many of you are willing to say you felt extremely happy yesterday? Raise your hands if you can. If you can't, you can stand up. You can show in some kind of way. Okay. So we've got some folks who were willing to say that they were extremely happy yesterday. How many folks would we say were somewhat happy yesterday? Were you somewhat happy? Okay. Might have been the commute, might have been whatever meeting you had that you really wanted to get out of. Okay, thank you. Is there anyone who would like to say that yesterday was just not a great day? And we always want to create space for those who maybe feel like, yesterday was just not the best day. Okay, so I do see some hands there. That's the same kind of question that these folks asked of 700 or so Ohioans. And what you see in the map that is in black and white is that Cuyahoga County, where we are right now, of course, the average in terms of the folks that they asked in Cuyahoga County was 6.2 out of 10. So on a scale of 1 being not very happy at all to 10 being the extremely happy best day of our lives, right? 6.2 is the average in Cuyahoga. Now the challenge is, of course, when we think about data, 700 people in a survey, 11 million people in the state. So we didn't ask a lot of people in Cuyahoga County. So the second thing that they did in the colored map over here was to actually group by region, because we think that data would be more reliable, because it's more people that really speaks to Northeast Ohio. And when you look at Northeast Ohio overall, you end up seeing a 6.94 on the scale of 1 to 10, scale of happiness. And so these data indicate that something in Northeast Ohio is going well. I know there are at least a couple of people in here who, like me, are from Columbus or live in Columbus right now. And if you look at that number for Central Ohio, we would be looking not just up at Northeast Ohio because you all are geographically north of us, but you're also geographically happier than us apparently as well. So when we look at these numbers, this is just about the state of Ohio. What does this mean for us in terms of the entire country? We are currently, as of 2022, ranked 12th among all 50 states with regard to how we feel about happiness here in the state of Ohio. Now, about 44, so almost all but 6 of our states have a range between 6.0 and 6.9, right? So Northeast Ohio actually kind of sits towards the top of that range of happiness. So there are no states that are 10 out of 10s on this metric, but there are also not a lot of states that are in the 3, 4, 5 range either. So we are in the middle, but we are also ranked fairly high, right? In terms of middle of the scale of happiness, but ranked fairly high in comparison to our other 49 neighbor states. Now, here's the tougher question. One of the challenges of that study that my friends did at Ohio State was that they only asked about 67 people of color throughout the entire state if they were happy yesterday. 67 people. So think about that just from a numbers perspective. Remember I said there were about 11 million Ohioans overall. So one of the things we need to think about is what data is available to us. And in that context, I took a look at some of the national data in terms of different racial and ethnic groups. And this is 2023 data, and 44% of Latinos or Hispanics are very happy. And in that 700-person survey in Ohio, they interviewed no Latinos or Hispanics. Now, they were transparent about that as a limitation of the study. But again, the idea here is that we want to make sure that we're counting everyone. The Pew Research Center also found that 35% of Blacks or African Americans are very happy in that context of, are you feeling happy, right? So far as I could tell on their website, however, there was no data about Asian Americans, and there was no data about Native Americans either. So again, whether we're looking at the statewide level, where there were certain groups who did not make it into the survey, or whether we're looking at the national level, where there are certain groups for which there is no report, right? Either way, we're missing key groups of people in understanding whether or not our communities are happy. Now, you may say, happiness. There was a great movie a long time ago called Author. And forgive me, I'm going to say exactly what was said, but there was a young boy in that, and he was like, happy? She wants happy? Who the hell is happy, right? Like, why should we care about happiness, right? Well, we know that emotional well-being is a conduit to so many other important mental health and also community interaction outcomes. And so that's why I'm focusing on happiness today. Now I'm going to ask you, if you had to guess, which ripple effect do you think will spread in 2025? The traumatic grief ripple effect that's still part of COVID? Or the happiness ripple? So again, how many people think the COVID ripple or what's been coming post-COVID and what is to come in 2025 in terms of trauma is going to be the ripple that spreads? Okay, so we got a fair amount of folks who think that that's going to be the ripple that spreads. How many people are willing to be, despite the rain and the cold outside, sunny optimists who are going to say the happiness ripple is going to spread in 2025 going forward? Okay, so we've got a few folks, right, who are willing to say, I'm going to claim it, that 2025 is going to have a happiness ripple instead of a trauma ripple, okay? So you all have been the survey subjects for this particular question. I want to talk about why we can't tell yet, because we have some missing data in Ohio. So right now, when we think about that data that was missing from that statewide study, if you extrapolate that to the entire state, about 20%, right? So about 2 million or so folks, right? A little bit more than 2 million, 2.25 if you're talking about 11 million Ohioans, 20% missing data. So we don't know actually whether or not we could predict that the happiness ripple or the trauma ripple for the statewide data. But let me show you how important that is in Cuyahoga County. If we don't have the sufficient data to talk about the different populations, that's a missing data rate of 37%. So you really only are talking about a little over half of the population if you're not making sure that you're covering all of these different data groups. So, with regard to which ripple is actually going to carry forward, I do not have a crystal ball. I cannot tell you which ones of you were right, in November of 2024 about what's going to happen in 25. But I can say that there is a strong opportunity for happiness to be the ripple that actually carries forward. And I'm going to give you a hint why. It has nothing to do with how many friends you have on Facebook, or how many followers on Instagram, or how many times you Snapchat your teenager, right? It actually is your social network. And over the past 25 years, we've started to kind of blend our social media must be our social network. And I'm actually going to talk about your social network without talking about how many friends you have or how many followers you have or anything else. So, as my friend and colleague Manuel Pastor likes to say, it is not just what you know, but it's what you know and who you know it with. That's the value of the social network in rippling out the happiness or rippling out the trauma. So, next interactive component, happiness spreads, okay? Now, if we think about folks who are living in close proximity to each other, I have 4 numbers up here. 25%, 34%, 14%, 8%, okay? If you think about the people you know, not the folks who follow you on Instagram or the high school friends who live in Buffalo or who live in Tampa, who live in California, the people you know right here, locally, that 25%, would we say that that 25% is a family member? How many people think that 25% your happiness is based on your family member, whether it's a spouse, whether it's a child, whether it's a mother, father, relative? How many people think that that's what that 25% represents in terms of how happy you are? How is that influenced? Okay, so we've got some folks who are willing to say, if my family's happy, I'm happy, and I think about 25% think the same thing. Okay? All right. 25% is about friends that are living within 2 miles of each other. So that means your friends who live close to you, who maybe you go walking with on a daily basis or you see at church, those friends who live close to you, 25% influence on your happiness. So if they're happy, you're happy. If you're happy, they're happy. So maybe it's not 25%. How many people think that family is about 34%? Because again, we love our families and they're the most important people in our lives generally, right? 34% is your next door neighbor. Now, I don't know how many of you have lived in apartments or had roommates or other kinds of things, but remember those days if you no longer live there. And remember how important not having the person next to you either playing loud music or doing all kinds of things that you don't agree with, whatever that is, really does play a role in your own happiness, right? But the good news is it doesn't just play a role in your own happiness, you have the opportunity to play a role in your next door neighbor's happiness as well. So if you're happy, they're happy. If they're happy, you're happy. So now I know everybody's like, well, gosh, where is family, right? If it's not 34%, if it's not 25%. 14% is siblings. Not your kids, not in-laws. That maybe is not a surprise, right? That the 14% is not in-laws. But again, the idea here is that your siblings who live close to you, within a mile of you, have a significant influence on whether or not you're happy, right? Now, again, when I was a foster mom, I loved having siblings near me because I could say, hey, we got to come and do this, or can you do this with me, et cetera, right? Come to the YMCA basketball game, those kinds of things. Last, spouses who live together. Now, let me be 100% clear. I have a PhD. It is not in counseling or marital couples therapy. But this is what the data tells us about who has a significant influence, right? So the whole happy wife, happy life, those kinds of things, right? It's not as supported by the data as we might think. So again, I say this to distinguish between the social media network that you might have is qualitatively different, obviously, than the people you know and you see on a daily basis. The other thing that was surprising to me about this data is nowhere on here is coworker, even though we spend so much of our time at work, right? Now, I was very gratified to see Director Dan Schroeder recognize the people that he works with on a daily basis, right? But again, what's interesting is that we can carry that into the workplace because these are the main influences. So we don't have to worry about the workplace necessarily influencing us. We can also carry that into the workplace, because we're getting it from our neighbors, our friends, our siblings, and our spouses. So how do we actually support the happiness ripple effect? Well, the research shows us a couple of things. Certainly significant others, despite the 8%, do play a role. But here's where the workplace can come in. Here, the people we work with, whether it's the clients that we're working with, right, or whether it's the coworkers that we have around us, they are what we would call experientially similar others. They're in the trenches with us. They're doing the work with us on a regular basis, right? But what should we be doing? And so one of the things we want to talk about when we're thinking about supporting and saying that 2025 is going to be a happiness ripple effect versus a trauma ripple effect is to focus on emotionally sustaining behaviors. Things like empathy, things like active coping assistance. And I will say, some of the things that I saw when I was first coming into the room today, I saw and heard so much empathy. There was so much recognition of, I see you, I see who you are. And that's why gatherings like these are super important, right? Yes, we know the world is hard. Yes, we know we are concerned about, and rightly so, things like benefits cliffs, things like changes that we can't predict, right, at the federal, state, or local level on any given day. But I think we also want to be able to provide that empathy and active coping assistance. The other things that we can do are things like providing instrumental aid, right? So that's what I was talking about with my siblings, right? Can, you take so-and-so to volleyball practice? Can you show up at the basketball game, right? Do you give as an aunt or an uncle, that kind of support to your nieces and nephews, and they get recognition from you as much as they're getting recognition from whatever parental figure that they might be experiencing. And so again, we can provide that instrumental aid, and then we can also, of course, role model as well. So we can support. And the reason why I want to push so hard on happiness is not because I'm a toxic positivity expert here, but because we actually do have some good news. We have some folks in this room I know who have been working on things like addiction treatment and addiction prevention, substance abuse treatment and substance abuse prevention. Our fentanyl deaths are down 16% in this state. And I want you to celebrate the folks in this room who have been pouring their hearts into this work for so long. Now, is one death too much? Absolutely. But I want us to recognize that critical news of 16% down. Because amidst all of the media reporting and things like that goes on every day, how many times have you seen that in the news? versus the horror of the day, the horror of the day. And should we not be concerned about the horror of the day? We should absolutely be concerned about the horror of the day. But we also want to say that people who have been doing this work are doing things that work, right? And Ohio can help lead the country in showing what works, because clearly we're doing something right. The second thing with regard to here in Cleveland, violent crime is down 13%. I didn't do it, you all did it. You all do the after-school programs. You all pick up and become the social safety net for the kids that don't necessarily get it at home, okay? You all are doing that work. And that's what keeps them out of the criminal justice system. So again, I just want to celebrate those, and I want to think about how do we integrate these into our happiness frameworks? How do we support spreading this good news, right? Beyond just posting on Facebook, beyond just, sharing on Instagram some little factoid that's kind of designed very prettily. So how do we share good news without winding up in toxic positivity? And how do we share it without discounting the persistent needs, right? Because fentanyl deaths are down 16%, but as I said, even one is too many. So how do we get to a place where we can't then say, oh, no, now we don't need the money anymore because we're down 16%, right? Because that's a real question. And I saw, it's so funny, I saw you get to see all of you, so I get to see a couple of nods going, that was my question. We're going to talk about that. So the last thing we are going to talk about is what is the actual community happiness amplifier? Because so far I've been very much focused on each of us as individuals, right? We each have significant others. We each have people in our own communities, right? Kind of the each one teach one, each one make each other happy. But we can also talk about how beyond just what we can do as individuals, how we can amplify across an entire community. And we use habits of solidarity to do that. And there are some habits of solidarity, and the reason I call them habits is because they are just like brushing your teeth. You need to do them every day. That one time that you did it, and it was really great, we are also proud of you for doing it, right? That was 5 years ago. Or that was when you were in college. Or that was when, when you were 9 years old, you stood up to a bully. All amazing things, but they're habits, meaning that they're things that we need to do on a regular basis. The other important thing about habits of solidarity is that they can be learned. They're not things that you're either born with or you're not born with, right? So this is not people are inherently born flexible. Anyone who's bad at yoga can tell you not everyone is born flexible, but you can learn flexibility. You can learn and grow in your emotional stability or in your cultural empathy. So these habits, of solidarity are ways to spread out that happiness ripple effect across a community. So it's more than just taking your neighbor some, cookies that you happen to bake, right? Because that's a one-on-one. Nobody's saying don't do that. But we're saying that you can make an even wider effect by practicing these habits of solidarity. But am I ready for solidarity? And this is a really important piece that you want to think about as folks who are in the trenches doing the work. There may be resistance to solidarity, and I think we want to be real about the challenges that can sometimes happen when we want to stand in solidarity with another population, whether it's societal or familial pressures, right? Whether it's violent threats, right? Whether it's something that's a little more interpersonal, about I'm not sure that I want to stand in solidarity. And so there is an amount of personal preparation to push past ambivalence and to think about how can I care for myself and make sure that I am ready to be a happiness amplifier by practicing solidarity habits. And then the last thing that's really important in terms of your readiness for solidarity is we need to hold each other accountable. And we need to think about the ways in which we do that. That again, amplifies rather than traumatizes or causes each other to walk away from being able to stand in solidarity. So what does solidarity look like at the cultural level? Solidarity at the cultural level looks like two things. One, being able and willing to stand up for a community that you are a member of or that someone who is close to you is a member of, right? The second one is because then you can stand as the expert. Then you can share, this is the experience that happens to me, this is what people in my community are experiencing, and I need you to listen and understand from that perspective. But that can't be the only thing that you do, no matter where you're situated or what kinds of things that groups that you actually are a member of. You also need to be a learner, which means the second part of solidarity is you need to stand in solidarity when you are the privileged or when you are in the group that does not experience the same kind of harm. And there you are not the expert. There you are not the leader. And it's not just personally humbling and making sure that everybody's coming from a good space, but part of the work is amplifying those with what we now call, in most of what we do, lived experience, right? And we amplify. So when we talk about what we do in foster care, we want to center transition-aged youth who have the experience of what it's like to turn 18 and then not have any resources or not be sure about what their resources are going to be when they turn 18, right? Mine is turning 17 in about 3 weeks. And thank God he's back with his biological father, but I think about that all the time, right? Like, what would happen to him? He would call me at 1 a.m., and that would be 100% fine, and I would go get him. But again, the point is, right, we want him to tell folks that's his experience, and this is what he worries about on a daily basis, and this is what's going to help him get to college and become the architect that I know he's capable of, that he's always wanted to be since he was 9 years old when I got him, right? So again, we want to think about that holding each other accountable as being not just, we're going to say, oh, you hurt my feelings, and that was really bad, and you shouldn't really do that again, but also think about holding each other accountable to, do we have the right balance or mix of solidarity, where yes, there are places where we are experts and we are going to talk about what it's like to live our lives, but we're also willing to sit and listen and learn from the folks with lived experience whose lives are 100% different from ours. So what now? You've heard about the happiness ripple effect. There were at least a few of you who were willing to claim it for 2025 and beyond. I'm going to suggest and ask you to be part of that happiness ripple effect. And in so doing, focusing on spreading happiness in your social network, again, not on social media, but in your social network, directly engaging your significant others and experientially similar peers, coworkers, using emotionally supportive behaviors, and to spread happiness across diverse communities by using habits of solidarity. So I wish you, again, I want to congratulate all of the winners for today. I'm so glad to be a part of this presentation, and thank you so much for joining me on this journey.
Was amazing. I think we should all take more and more time to talk about happiness, and there are a couple folks from our Signal Cleveland team today, so I think we call each other, instead of coworkers, experientially similar folks, and we can focus on some happiness. Thank you so much. There are now 2 sets of awards to present this afternoon, and for that, I will turn it over to Jill Paulson, who is the chair of the Celebration Committee.
Thank you so much, Lila. It's my pleasure to introduce our community's High Five Award. This is a new award for 2024, which recognizes individuals who are making an outsized contribution to improving the health, social, or economic conditions in our community. The High Five Awards represent the evolution of our most long-standing award, which you may have known as the Most Treasured Volunteer or the MTV Awards, to include people who volunteer their time, as well as those of you who are employed in the field and help far beyond your day job every day. Each year, organizations around Greater Cleveland submit nominations and are reviewed in detail by a panel of judges. It's a tough job to select the award winners because there are thousands in our community, hundreds in this room, volunteers and professionals doing this amazing work every day in your community. In addition to the recognition today, each of the 5 winners receives a $500 prize, a small token of our appreciation for the impact they're having every day in our community. The online program contains information on each of the winners. We have brief videos to share with you, which tell the stories much better than I'd be able to do here from the stage. Winners will be announced one at a time, so please make your way up to the stage. As your video plays, there will be as your video plays, where we will present you the award and pose for the photo, you know how that goes. We thank Lila and Ange-Marie for helping us recognize the winners. So without further ado, I'm honored to introduce our inaugural High Five winners.
What brought me to Stella Maris was as a client, as a matter of fact, in 1995. I didn't end up staying long. I didn't think it was for me. Then I ended up coming back here 12 years later. Came a point where after you had a year sober, you were able to do groups and stuff. So I started volunteering, doing groups down here. And somehow, some way, it ended up turning into full-time. They tricked me somehow, but I loved it. I was really good at networking. So meeting people, I had no problem doing that, and I didn't take no for an answer. And I think that's what determines a good case manager from a bad one. You know, getting the answer, getting the client's needs met, you know. We have everything here. I mean, it can start at detox, so you can come in, you can get detox from whatever chemical it may be, whether it's opiates or barbiturate, whatever it is. A lot of people walk in here more of a shell as a person, and to watch them with that confidence and to get their self-respect back and to be able to exude love again, to love themselves, to be able to exude that to other people, it's a pretty amazing thing to watch. Because I felt like I got to play more of an integral part in people's lives by helping them. My whole life I knew how to survive, I just didn't know how to live, and I believe this place taught me how to live.
NEOC was started in the late 80s by a coalition of folks who are seeing the disparities amongst our unhoused population. With that, NEOC is here to eliminate the root causes of homelessness through advocacy, outreach, education, and justice work. Unhoused looks very different. It could be someone who is literally sleeping outside. It could be someone who is couch surfing. It could be someone who just received a 3-day eviction notice. It could be someone who is simply turning 18 and doesn't have options because they aged out of foster care and there's nowhere for them to go. When policies trickle down into the systems locally, it does become extremely painful to be able to navigate, especially when folks who aren't able to get care for who they are. It's a domino effect of all services. We believe housing is a human right, and we need to help create visibility amongst those who are experiencing homelessness, who often are invisible, particularly the LGBTQ+ community. Being able to walk with someone from experiencing homelessness to housing and watching them actually get to be themselves in their home is the most beautiful thing to experience. And watching my colleagues day in and day out show up as their whole selves, walking through with individuals to housing is the best.
So at the Worker Center, what we've built is the foundation of workers knowing their rights. Education is like the biggest thing about the Worker Center, and that connection to legal services and supportive services. A lot of time we're working with low-wage workers or nonprofit workers, but we are open to all workers. So we're answering that need. Say, hey, I'm a contract worker, but I haven't gotten paid in 2 months, but this is what the terms of the contract. We support them in helping them understand things, how relationships with employment should work, meaning making sure that you are classified as the worker that you sign up to be, and learning about wage theft. When we talk to people out in community, they are experiencing checks that are shorter than it was 2 weeks ago, than it was a month ago, and finding out that, especially in the restaurant industry and service industry, where these employees and these people who are working are being stolen from their employers. They thought it was just normal. Oh, it's just fees, but realizing they have been taken from. So the foundation of the Worker Center is education. We're looking to impact the lives of young people and youth as they're entering the workforce. So collective bargaining is this program that we have for high school students where they learn about collective bargaining, and they learn about wage theft, and they learn about workers' rights even before they enter the workforce.
Starting Point works on providing quality childcare and after-school opportunities for our youngest citizens, our children and youth, and connecting families to those services. So we're working on, coaching, professional development, training for childcare and out-of-school time providers. My work is to support all of that. A big part of what helps me stay at Starting Point is actually the team that works here. We have such an awesome team of people, and they're so passionate and they're so committed. It makes me want to work harder every day because I know how much they care about supporting families. Something that keeps me in this field is hearing the impact on families directly. Not long ago, we were compiling some data and surveying families who had been part of our scholarship program. And there were stories that were, before I got the scholarship, I had to choose between whether I was gonna pay for childcare or buy groceries in a week, or whether I was gonna be able to keep supporting my family by going to work, or I was gonna leave the workforce, and then what would we do? It's so real. I was 25 when I had my oldest child, and I remember what a struggle it was to pay for childcare. And there are a lot of people in our community who don't have resources and need more help, and that, honestly, at the end of the day, is what keeps me in the work.
Sometimes all somebody needs is for you to just sit with them and be present with whatever they're going through, and honor that and who they are. There's so much healing in that. When you look at people as a number and you just treat, check boxes, you're never really going to get to healing. So I'm dual trained in family medicine and psychiatry. What I do outside of running my department is I see patients in our walk-in medication-assisted treatment clinic. A lot of the folks I work with who are using drugs, who are unhoused, have severe mental illness, have been through so much, and I think we don't talk about trauma very much. We've been around for a long time, and then so some of these clinics are just where they were. I love that we are in a lot of different places because we can really touch so many communities. I think to come work here, you have to be bold and brave because we do things that a lot of other communities aren't doing, and you have to get excited about doing that kind of work. If you're not exposed to a condition, a type of patient, a procedure, when you're training and you have mentorship and support, you're never going to do that kind of work or that procedure or take care of those types of patients. So I think it's really important to be able to mentor and teach and expose folks who are going to be doing this work so that they feel more comfortable with all of the patients that they see. It's such a privilege to be able to love my job and to go to work every day excited about what I'm doing and be really proud of that work. It's the kind of work that I hope my daughter is proud of someday too, and I really think patients feel that.
Congratulations, Doctor. One more round of applause for our high five winners. Woo! Yes, yes. Please take a moment to read more about them in your program using the QR code on your agenda. Dr. Ange-Marie and Lila, if you can please remain on stage with us. We have one final award to present today. But before I do, I want to take a moment and recognize again the sponsors of today's 2024 Celebration of Human Services. Okay, here we go. We got Catholic Charities, Ohio Department of Jobs and Family Services, Key Bank, Snyder, Schmeltz, Spieth, and Bell, Legal Aid Society, Benjamin Rose, Greater Cleveland Food Bank, Catherine Booth Consulting, LLC, Cuyahoga County Board of Developmental Disabilities, Ohio Association of Food Banks, CHW Advisors, and Lutheran Metropolitan Ministries. Now back to the awards. We've recognized public servants and individual contributions. We now turn to recognizing an organization with the prestigious $25,000 Anisfield-Wolf Memorial Award. This award is named after Edith Anisfield-Wolf, who dedicated her life to philanthropy and literature and left trusts with the Cleveland Foundation to establish 2 annual awards. One honors literature that enhances the appreciation of the rich diversity of human cultures. If you haven't been to Anisfield Book Awards, get there. It's amazing. Check out on their website a great list of amazing books to read. And then second, we've got today's award, which honors nonprofit organizations for outstanding service. Mrs. Wolf was ahead of her time in thinking on social issues and the elimination of racial friction and racism. She was especially concerned about paying attention to the voices of people at the margins and in building a more just community. Community Solutions is pleased to announce the winner of this year's $25,000 Anisfield-Wolf Memorial Award. It's Providence House. Accepting the award on behalf of Providence House is Natalie Leake, President and CEO. Please join me on stage as we enjoy this brief video about their amazing work.
Our program is about keeping kids safe and families together. Providence House was founded in 1981 as Ohio's first licensed crisis nursery. Today, 43 years later, we are now one of the nation's longest operating and the largest crisis nursery in North America. We provide emergency shelter to children newborn through 12 years old whose families are in crisis situations, and that might be everything from homelessness to domestic violence or even mental health or substance abuse. We work with over 130 partner organizations throughout Greater Cleveland to connect resources to the family so that ultimately we can safely reunite the child with their parent and they have this foundation of community supports they need to be successful for the long term. 80% of our families self-refer. We're the first door they knock on because they're telling each other, this is a place that isn't trying to take your kids away. This is a place that isn't making judgments about the place you are today, but they're helping you get to the place you want to be. People always say, like, do kids remember being here? Do families even care after they get back together? We get cards and letters and graduation announcements for children that were with us when they were infants. The story I remember most fondly was a young man who came to the door, and he was here around the holidays. He had a big red fire truck with a bow on it, and I asked him how he heard about us, and he said, I lived here. when I was 5. And he had been in and out of a couple foster homes. And they brought him here while they were getting his next placement ready. And he said, I don't remember the whole 2 weeks they told me that I was here, but I remember my 5th birthday party. And he said people were hugging me and singing to me. And it's the first time someone ever said, I love you. And he said his next family adopted him, and he grew up in a lovely home on the Near East Side of Cleveland. He was graduating high school, heading off to college, like the story we pray for every child that needs help. And he said, but I never forgot being here. And so I brought this fire truck.
Congratulations to Providence House, the winner of this year's Anisfield-Wolf Memorial Award. Before we let Natalie say a few words, we're joined by Senator Nikki Antonio, who has brought some additional recognition for Providence House. Senator Antonio.
Good afternoon. You still there? This is a wonderful celebration. I want to thank the Center for Community Solutions for such an amazing day. Such a celebration, such a happy event right before Thanksgiving. I'm here to bring you news from the state of Ohio and the legislature. We still have hope to carry on. So I bring you hope as well. And how can we not, after seeing all and hearing from all these amazing organizations that provide services, hope, someone talked about courage, to the people of Northeast Ohio, and serve as a beacon of hope for all of us throughout the whole state. Providence House is one of those organizations that I have been so fortunate to work with. They serve as a model. They're a model for the rest of the state and, frankly, the country, in terms of providing crisis nursery services to maintain family stability so that families can stay together when there's crisis, when something's happening that they just need to deal with. But they shouldn't have to lose custody of their children in order to get healthy and to get better. So, on behalf of the state of Ohio, and the Ohio Senate, both myself and President Matt Huffman, we commend Providence House. We congratulate them on this recognition and how wonderful. It comes with some prize money. We love that. And we just want to say how proud we are of the work that you do, Natalie, and your team. And we look forward to your service for years to come for the families of Ohio. Thank you. Stand here. We'll do this.
Thank you, Nikki. And Nikki's history with Providence House goes back many, many years when she was the executive director of the Women's Recovery Center. So she actually referred to families to us before she went on to the State House to support us in so many ways. First, I definitely want to thank Senator Antonio for being here, not only as our champion, but so many of us in the room count on Nikki's voice and her leadership and her willingness to learn about the issues and those lived experiences and bring that back to the State House. So on behalf of our entire Providence House family, my amazing team, my amazing board members that are here, and the children and families that we serve, I want to say how truly honored we are to receive the Anisfield-Wolf Memorial Award. I want to thank the Center for Community Solutions for this incredible honor, and thank them really for the important work that you're doing to inform and advocate and convene all of us and the public policy leaders in the community to strengthen our kids and families across Ohio and certainly across Greater Cleveland. For us, this recognition helps shine a light on the significant need for family preservation and crisis care for children in Northeast Ohio and across the country. As a native Clevelander and a Catholic school graduate, I walk in our Midwestern humility and service through my role at Providence House, as many of us in human services do. But today, I want to take a moment to take the bushel off our light, and I'm going to take a few minutes to share our successes loudly and proudly with you, because we are so honored to be here today. Last year, Providence House served 876 children and families in crisis. 100% of the families who brought children to stay in our crisis nursery for the last 2 years were led by women. Nearly all of them were women of color living at or below the federal poverty line. Yet nearly 80% of them self-referred to our program. We were the door they knocked on, displaying such incredible bravery and trust in us to care for the most precious treasure in their life, their children. Now I got myself all emotional. Now I gotta change my pages. But really, these moms and grandmas were facing challenges like homelessness and mental health or sobriety issues, medical crises, or just struggling to make ends meet and keep the heat on and the water running without a strong family support system to rely on. And foremost in their concern always, even above their own, was how to keep their children safe and not lose custody while they sought support and treatment and employment. And that's where Providence House comes in. We are proud to be that neighbor and friend and partner that embraces our families with the support and resources they need at a critical time in their lives and for their child's safety. To walk with them through these crises and knowing that their children are safe and cared for and remain in their custody so that they can focus 100% on building the pathways to thrive. And they make the most of it. 99% of the families we serve were successfully reunited for over 10 consecutive years in a row. And while we are grateful for the impact that Providence House is able to have on the lives of these children and families, there are hundreds more who need our help every year. Last year, 691 children were waitlisted from our program. Approximately 70% of those live on the Near East Side of Cleveland. So today, I'm proud to announce that we are ready to open our new East Campus Crisis Nursery in Buckeye. So we're growing where the kids are, and our beautiful new crisis nursery at East 118th and Buckeye to allow us to care for 250 more children in Cleveland. It's a super exciting time for Providence House, a lot of hard work, but super exciting time with the opening of that campus. As you heard in the video, Providence House now, like so many of our innovative agencies, is leading the nation in the kinds of work we are doing for families in this community. We are now not only one of the longest operating, we are the largest residential crisis nursery in North America. Go, Ashley. I'm looking at Ashley. I think the other thing that we're so proud of is we are now also the first and the only Crisis Nursery to be recognized and listed in the National California Evidence-Based Clearinghouse as a research-based model for child welfare and family preservation. In 2020, we launched the Center for Crisis Nurseries as a place to share our model with others who were interested across the US and even into Canada. And today we have over 200 members of the National Crisis Nursery Coalition convened across North America to share ideas and resources and ways that we can impact and keep families together across the United States. We're currently supporting communities like Kentucky and St. Louis and San Antonio, Texas, to help launch our program to care for children in families in crisis so that they can stay together and be safe. And certainly, we are the most proud of our local impact. Here in Cuyahoga County, over the past 43 years, we have kept 15,000 children safe and families together. But we didn't and we don't get these amazing results alone. And from the very first inkling of the idea of a crisis nursery for our founder, Sister Hope Greener, 43 years ago, the first thing she did was talk to partners in the community, like all of you, and said, how can I help? And they said, we need a safe place for the children to be so that we can work with their parents on the services and treatments they need to rebuild their lives. And that was the cornerstone of what began the service, the crisis nursery service in Providence House. I am so proud that that deep connection with our partners, so many of you that I was hugging and talking to as we walked in today, continues on a daily basis. Last year, we partnered with 109 public and private community partners through over 600 individual referrals to and from each other to connect these families to the services that they need. And I want to thank all of you for being a part of that fabric and foundation of community support that is helping strengthen our communities and keeping our kids and families safe and together. We could not do this work without you. And I know we all want to get out of here, but I'm going to give one little stump. So, all of us in human services, we know, are bound to track our outcomes and our benchmarks, and we are all striving to align to those broader community goals, the social determinants of health and work and economic mobility. How do we get there for all residents? But for particularly those of us focused on the child welfare side of this, the frustration and the challenge is that the most important factor in a parent's ability to achieve health, work, and economic mobility is often the factor that is absolutely forgotten. It's their children. In Emily's 5 Things You Should Know just this morning in my inbox, the headline, Child Care Challenges Are Curbing Economic Opportunity. And if you dig into the story, families without safe care and child care for their children cannot get the education and the training and the jobs they need to advance and become economically mobile, as the goal is stated for our county. This one factor, the safe care of their children, even without a crisis, is the first step in achieving economic mobility, as our friends from Starting Point and awardee Kara Porter know. Yet, the barrier and the burden of proving employment in order to qualify for child care vouchers, which our county requires, dismisses the dangerous gap of who is caring for these children while their parents are working to qualify for the vouchers for child care. These are the kinds of issues that Senator Antonio, other elected champions, the Center for Community Solutions are all grappling with us, all of us, to strive to understand how policy is living on the street for the families who need help. No one wants to pass bad policy. I absolutely believe that. No one wants to put barriers in the ways of the clients that we all serve and support, but we all know that these intersecting policies, even with good intent, cross over into each other and often erode or prohibit the very benefits that they hope to provide. So while I'm honored to accept the Anisfield-Wolf Award today for Providence House, I want to remind and challenge everyone here that there is so much work to be done in human services, and it is our collective responsibility to share our stories and the stories of the people who seek our services, to share our data, and most importantly, identify and communicate the gaps that are preventing our clients and families and children from succeeding. So as we look ahead, we, and I know all of you are committed to continuing to expand the impact that we are having on families and children in this community so that they can thrive. We look forward to our continued partnership with all of you, and please know that our children and families are counting on us. Thank you.
Thank you, Community Solutions, for a day that was really inspiring, has left us with a lot to think about, and the videos were absolutely amazing. There now, want to send congratulations to all the winners. We want to honor your service and dedication to Greater Cleveland, and it is now my pleasure to welcome to the stage Kyle Miller, the Chair of the Board of Directors of the Center for Community Solutions, to close our program.
Thank you, Lila, and thank you, everybody, for being here today. What a great program. Every year, I appreciate the opportunity to spend an afternoon celebrating such good work focused on improving our community. And every year, it takes every ounce I have not to cheer and fist pump like Howard Dean with all of the great work that we're all doing here. A quick word of housekeeping for all of the winners. Please stay at the conclusion of the program for more photographs and potentially more high fives, if I've learned anything from the winners. I want to thank Jill Paulson for her service as the Celebration Committee Chair. Jill is one of those leaders that truly leads with her entire heart, and I think you could see that in her presentation to these awards. And thank you to my fellow board members who served on the planning committee, drummed up sponsorships, and attended today's event. But we all know that most of the work for these events that happen is done by the staff. So congratulations to Ebony Thornton, who managed the planning this year, and to Patty Carlisle and Madison Van Epps from Community Solutions communications team, who worked behind the scenes to ensure that every detail was considered. Additionally, thank you to the Community Solutions staff who contributed to the 2024 Celebration of Human Services. Board members and staff of the Community Solutions, please stand and be recognized. Thank you. One last person that I'd like to ask for a little recognition for too is our wonderful ASL interpreter over here. Doing such great work to make sure that everybody can participate in this great work being done in the community. I want to call special attention to one member of the Community Solutions staff who is a familiar face at the registration table, Rosie Black. She's As usual, Rosie is sitting in the back of the room to not draw any attention to herself, but she is our staff accountant, and Rosie Black is retiring at the end of the year after an incredible 45 years of service to the organization. As I said, Rosie, we know you like to be in the background, but here, this is a celebration. We needed to make sure that we were celebrating you for that moment today. Thank you so much for all of the work that you've done over the last 4.5 decades of work here. You'll truly be missed. For more than a century, the Center for Community Solutions has focused on influencing systemic changes, and public policy to improve health, social, and economic conditions. Our work is more important than ever, and we know that collaboration will be essential to protect human services and address community need. That's why the Community Solutions is launching the Cuyahoga Human Services Chamber. The inaugural director, Annette Iwamoto, is here today and will officially join the Community Solutions team on December 2nd. I know you're not new to this work, Annette, but I hope this room can show you just how passionate everybody is here in this community. And membership in the chamber is open to all nonprofits in Cuyahoga County who work in health or social services at the very low inaugural membership rate of $100 for a limited time. So please join today at communitysolutions.com. As we head into the new year, we're going to need strong coffee, strong drinks, but most importantly, strong partners. And that's who we are today. Many of you have joined us today, and we hope that you'll join us in a few weeks as a strong partner, not as that strong drinks partner. But then on Tuesday, December 10th, I hope you'll join us on Tuesday, December 10th in Columbus for the Community Solutions Budget Training Academy. Space is limited, and we have had quite a few registrations already, so it's very likely that it will sell out. So please be sure to visit our website to register. One last note, things are changing very rapidly in the policy environment, so please be on the lookout for the 5 things you need to know in your inbox every Monday. We appreciate Natalie for scooping me on that message here with your comments earlier. And thank you again to our sponsors, to the board, to the staff, to Lila, and to all of the speakers, but most importantly for everybody here today, to be able to take a moment out, to be able to celebrate all of the great work that you all have done throughout this year. So congratulations to the award winners. Please stay for pictures and additional high fives, and have a great day. Have a great rest of the day. Thank you.